Hello and welcome back to OC Decoded. I am Erin Brown and your decoding guide. Today we're going to be talking about OCD and astrology, and that is a tough one. Um, I like to remind myself and others that OCD wants a certainty, that that's a big part of it, that the fear, the obsession is the fear about the uncertainty and the distress of the unknown, and the compulsion is anything we do to decrease the distress of the unknown. And with astrology, people with OCD can get very stuck on that. OCD or astrology is more, and depending on the various types of astrology there are, but it can be more ambiguous and not give direct answers and lead multiple paths. And OCD really, I find that people with OCD when they're looking to to decrease the distress of the unknown, and they are compulsively trying to do that. That astrology is one thing that sometimes they try and turn to find those answers, and can get really stuck in a loop about it or down a rabbit hole about what it means, and trying to make a certainty out of it. And that, because astrology is so ambiguous, you can almost find any certainty you are wanting in it. And because OCD just wants the certainty, it'll grab something and be like, that's the certainty. It's it. It's it. I know it. And then we start making decisions based on that, knowing that that we think we know it's for sure true, or we know it's a certainty when it's not. And so today we're talking about how to kind of try to start to navigate that with OCD, that how to be able to use the tools at your disposal and know when you're using it compulsively versus when you're using it to help you. Um, there's a type of OCD called information hoarding, which is like needing to know all the information about something before you get started, and that's what's so hard about OCD, because a lot of people tend to use WebMD or Google or other things to diagnose themselves and others, and to, find answers to those kind of things. And it just can get really complicated, and where it's just there's never enough information. Like the information hoarding part of OCD wants all the information. It feels like it can't make a decision until it has all the information. It wants a certainty it has all the information, but it can't. And so I find that that type can be really difficult with astrology, because it's like wanting to know all the information it can, and and then trying to get that certainty out of it. And so astrology can be this beautiful tool. I mean, it's an ancient tool. When I think about the data set of, that humans have been looking into the heavens for answers for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And so being able to really start to answer with, that, like, okay, there's got to be something to this that they're doing. I mean, and as we talked about last week with shadow work, Carl Jung actually talks a lot about astrology in his later years. And he called it the archetypes. And that was one thing that he really developed and came out, that the idea that there are these archetypes in the collective unconscious, which is kind of if we think about an individual's conscious, then the collective unconscious is like the collection of everyone's individual consciousnesses together. But that the archetypes are in this collective unconscious, that like the hero archetype, and is played out in the hero's journey, but that is an archetype. And there's the maiden, or that idea of innocence and all of those kind of things, versus the mother archetype, which is which is very different in that way of like that you have to move from maiden to mother. And the threshold which you cross to go through that, is that kind of is such a transformation. And transformations are so hard for OCD because it's an unknown. I mean, that is it just when the more that's why I find it helpful to remind myself that that unknown is one of the hardest parts, because my fear of the unknown can stop me so much from not making a step forward, no matter which way it is. Just the fear can be so paralyzing for me. And I find with a lot of people with OCD have that same experience, that it's just the fear that is so overwhelming. And so with astrology and the archetypes, we're trying to walk toward those fears in some ways about trying to discern how can I, like, can I walk toward this? Can I notice when I'm starting to do it obsessively and compulsively? So again, thinking about the obsession is the fear, you know, is this bad thing going to happen? Is it not? Am I a good person? Am I not? And then looking to whatever tool we're grabbing. And so with astrology, when we're grabbing that, their suggestion is to try to look at it through the archetypes, the themes that are happening in your life, that it's not a direct answer, but that we can discern so much intuitive wisdom from the patterns that are laid out, and that OCD gets so zoomed in, like just it's almost like having blinders on, and that all you can do is see your obsession. And we're trying to just open that a little and give some um I call it the 40,000 foot view in a way, like we're trying to zoom out, like when to zoom out and when to zoom in. And that zooming in is great, but we got to zoom out also. We can't stay zoomed out all the time. We got to zoom back in. And navigating that can be really difficult with OCD and with astrology, and that when do I zoom in on certain things and when do I not? How do I know if um, I'm living out a certain archetype, and what do I do to change that? But all these questions are such good questions, and we're really trying to practice about how to assess and observe ourselves without judgment, as being the step about it, and how to notice when we are stepping into that repetitive loop of intrusive thought and fear, and that the goal is to walk through that fear threshold. And I find that visual to really help me, to think of, okay, I don't know what's on the other side of this door. That is very scary. I can sit on this side of the door forever if I choose. But that, getting to the other side of that door, being able to open the door and breaking it into those smaller steps are so helpful, because again, with OCD and either being zoomed out or too zoomed in, it can be like, well, if I do that, then I have to do this. And if I do that, then I have to do this. And then that, this and that, and just on and on and on with those calculations. And we're trying to slow it down where there's a pause between knowing a thing and acting on the thing. We're trying to give space to all of this so that you can um, feel comfortable in your own head, is so much of the own goal of not like how to know when you're engaging with a tool like astrology. Like, is it making you feel better about yourself, or is it making you feel worse? The starting and stopping is what's so hard with OCD. And knowing how to do that with astrology can be very difficult. And so it's just really, but getting into the archetypes and looking at it from that broad view, that these are things that we know influence us, but that like the unseen is one of the hardest things for OCD. And so trying to make the unseen more tangible, and part I think is discerning those patterns and being able to see the the space in between things, is the way I call it, and learning how to navigate that while feeling good about myself as a person is the ultimate goal. So I hope that was a good intro into how to start navigating astrology if you wanted to with OCD, and some of the challenges that may come there. And please let me know if you have any specific questions or topics that you would like me to cover. I would love to answer any questions. So hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you next time.